I don't believe he was motivated politically. I think this is motivated emotionally. I think this was a emotionally stunted person who literally, when I say it this way, is him trying to defend his significant other, not trying to defend some ideology.
Yes, his ideology is his significant other, who believes, or says at least, that he's a boy who is somehow magically becoming a girl, a man becoming a woman. But as we all know, you can't actually do that. You can pretend all you want, but don't kid yourself. That was the once famous, once respected Montel Williams. He was on CNN talking about all this. Yeah, what's to see here? It wasn't political. It was emotional. Well, I will grant that he's likely emotionally unstable with his boyfriend who thinks that he's his girlfriend because the Democrat Party's transgender program, which is a fantasy world. But we do have a Supreme Court justice who is a woman, and she can't tell you what a woman is. That's getting kind of weird, isn't it? Getting kind of weird. We remain at 888-630-9625. A very happy Wednesday to you, a happy hump day. It is, I'm still looking around, but I think it's mailbag day today on the Chris Plante Show. We've been screwing it up a little bit lately, and I apologize for that, but we're trying to get it straight. Too much news, too much madness, and so much breaking while we're on the air as a normal matter. Now, again, Montel Williams, they're making excuses for the murderer all over the place. The Democrats are. Montel, he's a Democrat, and he's amazingly a Naval Academy grad and has an interesting life story to tell. But never mind that. The assassin of Charlie Kirk is he? I don't know. Is he Luigi Mangione? I think they want to date Luigi Mangione more than they want to date the new assassin, the new Democrat Party assassin. Tyler Robinson, his name, 22 years old, apparently a gay man. Or maybe he's not gay, but his boyfriend is. It's kind of. I did see there was news media over the weekend. They were saying that Tyler Robinson, the assassin, I'm going to go ahead and declare him guilty because we've got all the evidence in the world. But he's the accused. The accused, Tyler Robinson. He's got. I saw a reporter saying, well, he's in a heterosexual relationship because the man that he's dating says that he's a woman. Therefore, he's in a heterosexual relationship, you see. Isn't that amazing? And we got Hollywood people and media people who are just torn up about this, not because of the assassination, but because they want to smooth it over for the Democrat Party. They got even, Jamie Lee Curtis. She used to be in movies, and she was kind of cute about 50 years ago. And she's got a lot to say about the assassination, but it gets complicated because they have mixed feelings, the Democrats. Now, before we get back to the great American people at 888-630-9625, the Democrats are saying, the political violence, it's everywhere. Oh, Barack Obama was out speaking yesterday, too. There's political violence everywhere, like the Minnesota Democrats that were shot at their homes. It's true, by the guy who had been appointed to 2 statewide commissions by 2 different Democrat governors in Minneapolis. Pay no attention to that. They're saying, there's political violence on both sides. And also the guy that shot those Democrats up there, you may remember, but you may not because the news media buried it in a shallow grave with a shovel that they keep in their trunk next to a bag of lime because these people, Minnesota State Patrol reveals that they had the killer of the elected Democrats in Minnesota. He had his anti-Trump flyers in the back of his car, the No Kings flyers for the No Kings protest, the anti-Trump protest. And the only people that he shot, the woman that he shot and killed, who was an elected state official, she had just gone against the Democrat Party and voted against giving free health care to illegal aliens in Minnesota, which the Democrat Party was pushing, and she betrayed the Democrat Party. And then she was shot to death by a guy who had the No Kings flyers in the back of his car who had been appointed by 2 Democrat governors to a statewide commission, and the Democrats are still whipping that one out, I got to tell you. Also, I talked about this the other day. I talked about it on Monday. Then yesterday I had jury duty, and I was what is the right word? I was rejected. I was rejected. Not since high school have I felt so rejected. It was terrible. Yeah, I was rejected for jury duty. They didn't want me for jury duty. I would be too fair and too prudent, and I would ask all the right questions. That could be problematic. But I was talking about this day before yesterday, that the illegal alien that bashed Paul Pelosi in the head with a hammer at their multi-million-dollar mountaintop estate in downtown San Francisco. This guy, and I didn't know this until I think over the weekend when I was doing research for various things, but it turns out this guy, David DePape, did you know he went and he hit him in the head with a hammer at the Pelosi mansion, and then he was charged and arrested and charged and tried. And he's in the country illegally as an illegal alien from Canada this time. And he was sentenced at first to 30 years in prison for attacking Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, at their multi-million-dollar home because they're very, very good on the stock market, very good. And they're buying vineyards and things like that. But then it got... poor old Paul Pelosi, 82-year-old man and all that stuff. But then they put him on trial again for additional charges. And the second time around, because he hit a Democrat political figure, he was given life in prison without the possibility of parole. I'm sorry, what? Nobody in D.C. has ever been given life in prison without possibility of parole for hitting somebody in the head once. That is a fact, Jack. And they said, well, he hit a Democrat. So let's dial it up, shall we? Let's go ahead and give him life term on state charges. The guy is an illegal alien Canadian. The Democrats want open borders, and then the illegal aliens come in from all over the place, and they hit people in the head with hammers, and the Democrats don't know what to do. But he was given on separate charges, life in prison without parole for what would be assault with a deadly weapon, I think, ADW, right? The Democrat Party. And this is their idea of justice. Amazing. A statement put out, the Pelosi family said after 2 grueling years, said they were still prosecuting him 2 years later, real justice has been served. And the Pelosi family put out a statement. Today's sentence of life without parole gives our pop some measure of legal justice. Now, I got a life in prison without the possibility of parole for stealing a car is not justice. Life in prison without the possibility of parole. He didn't murder him and chop his body up and put it in hefty bags and throw it out along the side of the highway. But he did. It was a terrible crime, and he hit the 82-year-old man in the head with a hammer, and that should be frowned upon. But is that a life in prison without the possibility of parole crime? The answer is no. But the Democrat Party, they're on the side of totalitarianism. They're like fascists. They're like Hitler, Nazis, the Gestapo, the SS. Sorry, just borrowing their lexicon here again. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, but this guy, DePape, first sentenced to 30 years. That wasn't enough. The Pelosi family, Nancy Pelosi, powerful political Democrat, kept pounding, and they went back and said, oh, we'll charge him with more stuff. And then they gave him life in prison without the possibility of parole, on top of, in addition to, the 30-year in federal prison that he got for attacking Nancy Pelosi. She's the Speaker Emeritus, and that's the Democrat Party's idea of justice. Engraved in the relief above the entrance to the United States Supreme Court, it says, equal justice under law. And a lot of us, if you're paying attention, then you're going to be among the lot of us who see that there is not a lot of equal justice under law. Look at January 6th, the way the people at January 6th were treated and prosecuted and sentenced compared to the Democrat Party rioting, attacking courthouses, firebombing them, They killed a couple dozen people, injured more than 2,000 police officers, more than $1 billion, I think $2 billion in property damage. And in Washington, D.C., attacking the White House for 3 days, setting fire to the historic Church of the Presidents across from the White House. Nobody sentenced to prison. Injuring 180 police officers at the White House. Nobody sentenced to prison. Forcing the evacuation of the president and the first family by the Secret Service from the residence in the White House to the underground nuclear bunker. Nobody sentenced to prison. But everybody at January 6th, where only Ashley Babbitt was shot and killed by a racist police officer, where no non-lethal force was used. Isn't that fine? That's the Democrat Party. But since I talked about the life sentence without the possibility of parole for hitting Nancy Pelosi's husband in the head, he was, he got fine. He got better, and he's fine now, and I'm happy about that. But now let's go to the news media, the most corrupt institution in America. ABC News has a fake reporter named Matt Gutman. Matt Gutman has been suspended twice, once for getting a big report wrong about Kobe Bryant in his helicopter crash, said all 4 of his children were on board and they were all killed. And that was wrong, and they suspended him. That was one of them. But let's go to Matt Gutman, because this was, I guess, night before last, I think Monday night on ABC Network News. And he was reading that, is that right? Oh, you're right. I apologize. This is yesterday. It's all a blur because jury duty, And here's Matt Gutman, and he sounds like he's in love with the killer of Charlie Kirk because of text messages he sent to his gay boyfriend, who he thinks is his girlfriend, because his boyfriend says he's his girlfriend, and the mental illness is everywhere. Matt Gutman.
The other thing that stood out to me, David, is those text messages. I don't know if we have seen an alleged murder with such specific text messages about the alleged murder weapon, where it was hidden, how it was placed, what was on it, but also it was very touching in a way that I think many of us didn't expect.
It was very touching in a way that I think some of us didn't. He's talking about himself. I didn't expect it to be so touching. He was touched. I think he was touching himself.
A very intimate portrait into this relationship between the suspect's roommate and the suspect himself, with him repeatedly calling his roommate, who is transitioning, calling him my love, and I want to protect you, my love. So it was this duality of someone who the attorney said not only jeopardized the life of Charlie Kirk and the crowd, but was doing it in front of children, which is one of the aggravating circumstances of this case. And on the other hand, he was, speaking so lovingly about his partner.
And this is what he's focused on. He's getting choked up here. He's got something in his throat. It's touching, the intimate portrait, the Jungian thing. He's getting into duality. And honestly, he's just a crazy murderer and a mainstream Democrat. Isn't that amazing? Our Democrat Party. And he's obviously a Democrat. And he's choked up. He should see Lee Harvey Oswald's letters to his wife, Marina, because, Marina, he really sent some humdinger love notes to his Soviet Russian wife, Marina Oswald. You should get on that, Matt Gutman. Isn't he amazing? Newsweek magazine 3 hours ago, ABC faces calls to fire Matt Gutman over Tyler Robinson text remarks. He's got a man crush. He's got a major man crush on the killer, and he's cooing and wooing, and I think Luigi Mangione is going to be envious and jealous that the killer of Charlie Kirk is getting such adoration from ABC News. There's more media coming up, not on the side of civilization, because they're the left. They're not liberals at all. Hey, how'd you like to live a better digital life? Life online, your laptop, your iPad, your smartphone. Smartphone, indeed. What about the news that a major credit card reporting agency had a data breach recently that affected more than 4 million of us? It's a prime example of why it's so important to have products like WebRoot and WebRoot's Total Protection Plan. WebRoot's Total Protection Plan includes antivirus protection against emerging threats like malware and ransomware and phishing scams, identity protection for up to 10 identities, VPN coverage, cloud backup, and a whole lot more. This plan also includes up to, listen to this now, up to $1 million in fraud expense reimbursement if you become the target of fraud, 24/7 U.S.-based customer support, and elder fraud hotlines. You know, mom thinks that the email is a ripoff. You got a phone number to call, and even identity and dark web monitoring. It's all part of their all-in-one product with plans for both individuals and families. WebRoot allows me and my best girl to live a better digital life, a safer digital life. So let WebRoot Total Protection Plan give you the peace of mind that you want in the wake of these evolving digital threats, always changing. Right now, because we hang out, you're going to get 50% off, half off of WebRoot and their Total Protection or WebRoot Essentials plan when you go to webroot.com/plant. That's me. Again, 50% off, half off of WebRoot's Total Protection or WebRoot's Essentials plan. All you have to do is go to webroot.com/plant. Yes, sir. Yeah. Oh, and I've got Charles Grassley, a Republican senator yesterday, released documents about the Democrats abusing the federal government to target their political enemies because they're Hitler.
So it was this duality of someone who the attorney said not only jeopardized the life of Charlie Kirk and the crowd, but was doing it in front of children, which is one of the aggravating circumstances of this case. And then the other.
Yes, ABC News reporter. What, the gunman jeopardized the life of Charlie Kirk by putting a high-powered rifle round through his throat and killing him, assassinating him, murdering him. He died. I wonder if Matt Gutman at ABC News, if he knows what the story is that he's covering. He says, Matt Gutman of ABC News, a national news reporter on a national news broadcast, used to be ABC News, used to be a news channel where they had Peter Jennings and they had anchormen and things like that. But what did he say? He jeopardized the life of Charlie Kirk?
Not only jeopardized the life of Charlie Kirk and the crowd, but was doing it in front of children.
Yeah, and usually we just abort 1 million children a year and harvest their organs. But now ABC News reporter Matt Gutman is facing backlash for describing a text exchange between alleged Charlie Kirk killer and his partner as very touching, very touching. I think they all want to be in prison together. I think these people are not well. And that's the highest level of news reporting in the United States of America. And look what you get. Words can be funny things.
It was very touching in a way that I think many of us didn't expect. A very intimate portrait into this relationship between the suspect's roommate and the suspect himself.
It was touching on ABC News. It was an intimate portrait between the assassin and his boyfriend who thinks he's his girlfriend, and the Democrats applaud this. Also, did you notice Matt Gutman just said that he called him his boyfriend, right? Which I think is dead horsing or something, isn't it? It's not dead horsing. I know the difference. It's not dead. Is it dead naming? It's not dead naming. I know that. But the Democrats, they've got a lot of semantic and gender issues, and isn't that amazing? And he said, yeah, his boyfriend, and it's touching, and it's an intimate portrait.
With him repeatedly calling his roommate who is transitioning, calling him my love, and I want to protect you, my love.
Note that on ABC News, when you say who is transitioning, that means that you're going to chop your genitals off and try to have, a velvet glove installed or something peculiar because they're really screwed up. Now, ABC News, and again, there are calls for this guy to be fired this time, not just suspended as he has been twice before. But Senator John Kennedy, the always entertaining, hilarious, and brilliant Senator John Kennedy, the Republican, was asked about this last night when he was appearing on the Fox News channel, and Senator Kennedy, with his usual panache.
Some people need a shock collar. Touching? The guy just murdered another human being. He's talking about it to his love interest. It reminded me of something my dog would bring up. Touching? The guy murdered a human being. I try to be tolerant of other points of view. I really do, but that wasn't touching, and no fair-minded person can call it touching.
Well, he's a fair-minded ABC News, network news reporter. He's at the top of his game. Presumably, I don't know where he goes from here. He could go to Pravda in the Soviet Union or something. Is the Soviet Union back? I think it kind of is. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, and Matt Gutman, he got onto Instagram. He wouldn't go on X because Elon Musk, I think he's probably an anti-Elon Musk fanatic, thinks that he and J.K. Rowling should be assassinated because so many of the Democrats, according to polls, they just love murder, and they think a lot of people should be assassinated. And they think that the federal government is here to be used against their political enemies because that's how they use it. It's like the thing I shared with you. I was getting some text about this day before yesterday, the fun tweet that I shared with you, X-post that I shared with you, that Republicans always say that firearms, the Second Amendment, talking about the Second Amendment, firearms are to be used for hunting and sport and self-defense and defense of the family because that's what Republicans use them for. Democrats, anti-Second Amendment, always say that guns are used for murder and armed robbery and carjacking and crime because that's what they use them for. See how that works? Isn't that great? But let's go back to Matt Gutman for a second. And he's not a big fat guy, though. He's like a regular thin guy. I was thinking when I see the name Gutman, I think, what was it, the Humphrey Bogart movie, The Maltese Falcon, right? The Maltese Falcon, one of the greats. And Casper Gutman. Casper Gutman was the enormously rotund bad guy, the villain in the thing. And he was an enormously fat person in the movie, the great movie. And it's, the famous good old, what's his name, who's in, he was in Casablanca and everything else as well, Casper Gutman. And, it's Sidney Greenstreet, of course, Sidney Greenstreet. But this is a different Gutman. Sorry, my obscure movie trivia coming out of nowhere. But the great movie Maltese Falcon, Casper Gutman, enormously rotund Sidney Greenstreet. But here is Matt Gutman, no relation, on Instagram. He said, yesterday I tried to underscore the jarring contrast between this cold-blooded assassination. See, now he's using the correct words. He's not calling it touching anymore. That's kind of weird. Between the cold-blooded assassination of Charlie Kirk, a man who dedicated his life to public dialogue, and the personal disturbing texts read aloud by the Utah County Attorney at the press conference. I deeply regret that my words did not make that clear. Your words made everything perfectly clear, I've got to say. You found it very touching. You were swooning. You were wooing. You want to get in a hot tub with the killer. But let there be zero doubt here, he said, colon. They love their colons. I unequivocally condemn this horrific crime and the pain it caused Charlie Kirk's family, those who were forced to witness it at UVU, that's the university abbreviation, and the millions of people he inspired. Now, that's real good, but now there are calls for him to be fired because the Democrats. And I marvel at this stuff. Oh, I can't. First of all, the Democrats created cancel culture. Let's start with that. And they wanted everybody canceled for everything. If you said something, these were crimes against humanity, speech crimes like the fascists that they are, like the totalitarians that they are, the commies, like the Maoists that they are. where you're punished for your thoughts and your speech. And the Democrats are good with that. And they have brought those to our those practices to our institutions. And then here is Charlie Kirk, who's literally shot through the throat and murdered by an assassin using a rifle, apparently his grandfather's rifle. And he told his boyfriend that he was really concerned that he wanted to get the rifle back to his grandfather because otherwise Dad might be really angry with him if he doesn't get. He's 22 years old, supposed to be a grown man. Could have already served 4 years in the Marine Corps. But never mind that. These frou-frou Democrats, ridiculous people that they are. Isn't it amazing? Wah. Yeah, but John Kennedy, always a funny guy, always a fun guy, talking about not Casper Gutman, but Matt Gutman and his ridiculous use of language, says my dog thinks like that. Amazing. All right, now let's get back to more media people, because that's ABC News there. And what's going to happen to ABC News national news correspondent, I think he's a senior correspondent, Matt Gutman. And again, he's been suspended repeatedly for previous offenses, journalistic offenses, where he reports things that are wrong, including that Kobe Bryant, when he crashed in his helicopter, tragically, in California, it was this guy that reported all 4 of his children were aboard the helicopter when it crashed, Kobe Bryant's helicopter. And that was wrong. There was one of his children aboard the helicopter, and that's terrible, horrible, and it really was. And then ABC News also suspended Matt Gutman for violating the company's COVID-19 policy in a hospital visit. He was pretending to be a reporter, but then he was suspended for violating the company's COVID policies because he went into a hospital, and I think he violated the hospital policies too. ABC chief national correspondent Matt Gutman has been suspended for violating a company policy on COVID-19 safety. This is from 2021, February 15th of 2021. A spokesperson, neither a spokesman nor a spokeswoman, but a spokesperson for the network declined to comment, as did Gutman. I wanted to share that with you because I say this all the time. When the news media becomes the focus of the story, they don't talk to the press. They don't respond, and we should all learn from them. And when the press comes to you with questions, do what the press always does. Don't talk to them. Don't respond. Don't answer. All right, now let's go back to the ridiculous media. Let's go to CNN number 3 because it sets up number 4. Montel Williams, who used to be a talk show host or something, now he's just an old stoner.
I don't believe he was motivated politically. I think this was motivated emotionally.
Yeah, that's
clever. I think this was a emotionally stunted person who literally, when I say it this way, just hear me, tried to defend his significant other. Not trying to defend some ideology.
Yeah, it's the ideology of transgender stuff. And they just say, and the ABC reporter says, who is transitioning. And you just say he is transitioning. And in Democrat world, that means that he's going to chop his genitalia off, put it in a blender, and make one of those fresh fruit frappies, you know. Hey, put some blueberries and strawberries in there. You already got your banana. There you go. Abby Phillip pretends to be a journalist at CNN, and she was sitting there with Montel Williams when he said, oh, yeah, it's not political, it's emotional. So they're trying to deflect, to change the conversation. It's not the left shooting and killing people in the name of left-wing ideology, even though this emotional dementia that he's talking about is about his boyfriend thinking that he's becoming his girlfriend, and that's the gender and transgender ideology of the Democrat Party. Abby Phillip poses as a news reporter at CNN.
Although I do think there's clearly an ideological difference. The ideological difference that he was reacting to wasn't just Charlie Kirk. It was also maybe his dad. I mean, his father was, according to him, MAGA. So that conflict was there, clearly.
So his dad was, still is, MAGA. He's a Trump supporter, Make America Great Again. He's the reports are that the killer's father is a Republican. So the news media trying to blame the Republican father for his psycho gay son with the fake transgender boyfriend. It's the father's fault. He said that his father is MAGA. His dad is MAGA. So it's, there's emotional and it's political. But the political dimension, Abby Phillips said, is just that his father is a Republican. Therefore, he assassinated Charlie Kirk because at CNN, that makes sense to their award-winning 7-figure reporters, their anchormen and anchorwomen. Isn't that amazing? Touching, intimate portrait. No, it's his dad. See, that's the problem. And they're all nodding. You didn't hear anybody yell and try to shut him down or anything. Now, the great Andy Ngo. Hopefully you know Andy Ngo. Everybody knows Andy Ngo. Last name spelled NGO. He's not a non-governmental organization, though. Andy Ngo, great online voice and has been for many years, and he covers the news better than the New York Times and CNN combined. And honestly, just extraordinary. Talking about the media and the left, and in terms you may be familiar with, the bloodthirsty gang of goblins that the left is going around shooting Trump, shooting Congressman Steve Scalise, shooting Charlie Kirk, shooting, and calling for everybody. In fact, I was reading to you on this Blue Sky left-wing platform, and they were calling for Andy Ngo to be assassinated. They're calling for J.K. Rowling, the famous author, to be assassinated. Of course, for President Trump to be assassinated on this online Blue Sky Democrat version of Twitter, of X. And here's Andy Ngo talking about, well, he tells the truth. Andy Ngo does. Andy Ngo is great.
What needs to be done is their propaganda and lies has to be exposed. I hope that it's been eye-opening for the public to see the bloodlust that exists, not just on the fringe left, obviously, but also on the mainstream left in the aftermath of this assassination. It is a cancer that exists on the left, and it's mainstream, and there's some data to back that up.
There is a great deal of data. I shared the data poll that came out. It was Rutgers University and a polling group. And the number of Democrats, self-identified left of center, want President Trump assassinated, more than half. Want Elon Musk assassinated, more than half. And it is the left is the most bloodthirsty gang of ghouls. And they, again, between just use the Soviet Union and the Chinese communists murdered more than 100 million people. Andy Ngo.
Just overnight, a mural for Charlie Kirk in Pensacola, Florida, was vandalized with Antifa propaganda on it, and some of the messages that left on it were the exact messages from what was engraved on the rifle cartridges that were used in the attack. So this is the mindset we're dealing with. It is, I will call it a death cult. They worship death. They want their targets killed.
I have called them a death cult for a very long time. A bloodthirsty gang of goblins. The most murderous death cult in the history of the world is the left, not just the American left, but the Democrat Party has joined them. Andy Ngo.
And they've been supported by a huge apparatus. I'm not just talking about the Black Bloc militants who are on the streets as acting as thugs, carrying out arson attacks and assaulting
black shirts,
people.
brown shirts.
We're talking about politicians who spread their propaganda and lies, NGOs, nonprofit groups, elected officials, and many in the Democrat Party, and of course many journalists. We've seen many disgusting lies spread in the last few days in liberal media suggesting somehow that this accused gunman was a far-right Christian nationalist inspired by MAGA.
Yeah, he's right about everything. Andy Ngo's parents escaped the communists in Vietnam and came to the United States to get away from the madness. And Andy Ngo speaks the truth. Andy Ngo is a good man and a good journalist, unlike Casper Gutman over here, Matt Gutman at ABC. You know, the big wireless companies have been pulling one over on all of us, and it's time to make the switch to consumer cellular. Listen, I made the switch. I'm getting the same fast, reliable, nationwide, big wireless coverage, same towers, same transmitters, same systems, without the big wireless costs. It's not just about saving money on the monthly bill, although that's real good. It's also about not being used and abused by the big cell phone companies taking us for granted. Do you even have any idea how much data you use every month on your phone and your laptop, your iPad? Most people 50 years old and up use less than 8 gigs of data a month. But Big Wireless, well, they shove everybody into the unlimited plan because they need to redistribute your wealth to cover the costs of young people using 10 times as much data as you use. And if you're not using all that data, then you are the one being used. Sorry to report. Had enough of that stuff? Go with Consumer Cellular. They set me up with a service and with an amazing phone, a great phone, and it's easy to make the switch. You make a phone call like a normal person. You talk to an actual human being on the phone, not a robot, not a touchpad, and that person you talk to is based right here in the United States, not in some far-off land. Real human beings who are actually helpful. It's only going to take you about 20 minutes to make the switch. You'll be glad you did. So give them a call today and make the change. Call 1-800-760-0702. That's 800-760-0702. Boom, boom, boom. All right, more crazy Democrat madness coming up. Lickety-split. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Jerry calling from Martinsburg, West Virginia. Geraldo, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hi, thanks for having me, Chris.
Hey, Jerry.
I have two serious suggestions for President Trump. Mm-hmm. The first is all of these decivilized people need to be put on the no-fly list.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be on. Seriously, who wants to be on a plane with these so-called people?
Uh-huh.
The second serious suggestion is for a executive order. And this executive order would be about, one of the weaknesses in our Constitution is it lacks definitions. And one of the lacking definitions is what is religion? I would make the argument that that an ideology progresses to being a religion when it goes to the point of defining good and bad, evil and et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Good and evil, sure.
And and that defining this left wokeism as a religion would have the effects of, hey, you can't teach this.
Very interesting, and prohibiting its on their own insistence, its use in the public square. And I have advocated putting lefties on the no-fly list.